Everyone thinks the loudest person controls the room. They're wrong. The loudest person controls attention. The quietest person controls information. And information is power. But here's what most people don't realize. Silence makes others uncomfortable. And uncomfortable people reveal themselves. If you understand why that happens, you understand how social power actually works. Human beings are wired for feedback. When you speak, you expect something back. Validation, reaction, agreement, laughter, some signal that tells you where you stand. But when someone watches without reacting, your brain doesn't relax. It searches. Are they judging me? Did I say something wrong? Why aren't they responding? Silence creates psychological tension, and tension forces exposure. Most people believe silence is passive. It isn't. Silence creates a vacuum. And in a vacuum, people rush to fill the space. They talk more. They explain more. They justify more. They defend more. They reveal more. Not because they were asked to, but because uncertainty makes the brain uncomfortable. And uncomfortable minds try to reduce uncertainty. That's the first advantage of the quiet observer. They don't interrogate. They let discomfort do the work. Most people enter a room trying to be seen. The observer enters trying to understand. While others focus on being impressive, the observer focuses on patterns. They notice who interrupts others, who dominates conversations, who laughs too loudly at authority figures' jokes, who changes personality depending on status, who seeks approval before finishing a sentence, who avoids eye contact when challenged. Patterns appear faster than most people realize. And once you see patterns, people become predictable. And predictable people are easier to read. When someone speaks emotionally, they reveal triggers. When someone overexplains, they reveal insecurity. When someone reacts too quickly, they reveal attachment. The observer isn't judging. They're mapping, not to manipulate, but to understand. And understanding shifts advantage. And predictable people are easier to influence. The quiet observer isn't silent because they're weak. They're silent because they're regulated. Emotional control is misunderstood. People think power looks aggressive. It doesn't. Real control looks calm. When you don't react emotionally, you don't reveal your triggers. You don't expose insecurities. You don't hand over leverage. Most people lose authority through overexposure. They talk too much. They explain too much. They defend too quickly. They rush to correct how they're being perceived. But perception strengthens when you remain slightly unpredictable. Reaction reveals position. Silence protects position. When you react instantly, you show what matters to you. When you pause, you create uncertainty. And uncertainty creates presence. Waiting creates weight. When you speak less, your words carry more impact. Not because you're louder, but because you're selective. And selective communication builds authority. But there's a mistake many quiet people make, and it destroys their advantage instantly. Silence without presence. If you stay quiet but appear uncertain, people interpret it as weakness. Strategic silence requires alignment, calm posture, steady eye contact, controlled breathing, intentional speech. Silence must feel deliberate, not accidental. There's a difference between someone who is quiet because they are overwhelmed and someone who is quiet because they are observing. One shrinks, the other stabilizes the room. When you speak rarely, but speak clearly, the room adjusts. You don't speak often, but when you do, people listen. That is authority, not volume. Something interesting happens in group dynamics. People test the person who doesn't react. They make subtle jokes. They push boundaries. They try to provoke emotion. Why? Because silence disrupts comfort. Humans rely on feedback to feel socially safe. When someone is unreadable, It creates uncertainty, and humans try to reduce uncertainty. So they poke, they tease, they challenge lightly, sometimes unconsciously. They want to see where your emotional edges are. If you react emotionally, they found the edge. If you stay composed, they expose themselves. Uncertainty makes people uneasy, and uneasy people reveal truth. They reveal insecurity. They reveal competitiveness. They reveal intent. The observer simply watches and learns. There's another advantage silence creates. Almost nobody talks about it. It creates an information gap. In most conversations, people exchange information equally. You share something. They share something. Balance feels comfortable. But when you speak less than others, the balance shifts. They reveal more than you do. They expose preferences. They expose fears. They expose ambitions. And you remain partially unknown. The person who knows more and reveals less holds the stronger position, not because they are manipulative, but because clarity favors the informed. When someone cannot fully read you, they hesitate, they calculate, they become cautious. Mystery increases perceived depth. When you don't explain everything, people assume there is more beneath the surface. When you don't react instantly, people assume you are thinking. When you don't overshare, people assume you are selective. And selective people are respected more than available ones. But this only works if your silence feels intentional. If it feels insecure, it backfires. Silence must be paired with composure. Otherwise, it's not mystery. It's uncertainty. The observer understands this balance. They are not silent to disappear. They are silent to gather. And understanding always precedes influence. This isn't about manipulating others. It's about awareness. When you observe first, you understand motives. You detect insecurity early. You see power dynamics forming. You avoid unnecessary conflict. You stop reacting emotionally. You start responding strategically. And that changes how people treat you. Because when you stop rushing to fill silence, you stop chasing validation. When you stop defending immediately, you stop giving emotional leverage. When you stop explaining excessively, you stop appearing uncertain. Awareness creates stability. Stability creates presence. Presence changes perception. The loudest voice in the room might win attention, but the quiet mind wins understanding. And understanding wins long-term influence. In a world obsessed with being heard, the one who listens sees everything. So the next time you notice someone silent, don't assume they're lost. They might be the only one who truly understands what's happening. And if you are that person, stay observant, stay composed, speak only when it changes the room. Welcome to the Observer.